Hello, my name is Katie Byers, and I am the Assistant Director of Career Services at Pitt-Greensburg. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our recording on centralized application systems for healthcare science graduate programs. If you're considering applying to a graduate or professional school program within the healthcare areas, there are a few things to keep in mind. In this video, we'll specifically review centralized applications, but if you're interested in learning more about the process of applying to graduate school, as well as how to write a solid personal statement, I would recommend taking a look at our 2 recordings on those topics. For many careers in the healthcare sciences, a graduate or professional degree and certification are required. If you're interested in pursuing a degree in the healthcare areas, you might be asked to apply to a program using a centralized application system. This is essentially an online portal in which you will upload one application that will be sent to each school or program you indicate. For instance, if I am interested in applying to 5 different schools for a Doctor of Physical Therapy program, I would complete one application through the portal, and I will indicate that I would like the application to be sent to those 5 specific schools. Since healthcare programs can be a bit competitive, it's common for students to apply to more than one school to increase their chance of being accepted into a program. Centralized applications really eliminate the need to send multiple sets of application materials. One very important thing to keep in mind about centralized applications is that each run on a cyclic process, meaning there is a period of time in which you can upload and submit materials. For example, for occupational therapy, applications typically open mid-July and close the following June. Applicants should begin the process approximately 1 year prior to their desired start date. Students wishing to begin a graduate or professional school program following graduation should typically focus on applying during the summer or early fall of their final year in college. It's very important to research your programs of interest and make sure you're submitting applications prior to each school's unique deadline. Although centralized applications tend to be open for approximately 11 months, most schools do have a deadline that's much earlier. Within the centralized applications, you'll submit a personal statement, set of letters of recommendation, transcripts from post-secondary institutions you attended, and a background of your academic, work, volunteer, and research experience. If you're applying to multiple schools using centralized applications, it's important not to mention specific schools in your personal statement. Many programs ask applicants to answer additional essay questions to gauge your interest and career goals. Within these responses, you can certainly tailor your content to a specific school since it will be sent solely to that school. We do have a recording on personal statements in case you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to navigate this aspect of the application process. Now, not all schools will use a centralized application system, so it's best to check the website of your programs of interest to make sure you're following their unique requirements. On the screen are listed many of the common health professions and their respective centralized application system. To find the appropriate application system website for each profession, you can conduct a simple internet search of the acronym. Keep in mind the application system might vary by school. For instance, some health administration programs utilize SOFAS, which is typically used for public health programs. Always check the school's webpage to confirm the application requirements and the appropriate process. On the screen, there is a snapshot of the application cycle timeline, fees, and entrance exam for each program area. Applying to graduate and professional programs can be a bit costly, especially when applying to multiple schools. I always recommend planning not only your time in advance, but also your finances. The application timeline and cycle might slightly change each year, but for the most part, they are pretty consistent. The start time frame of the cycle is important to note, but remember, each program has their own deadline by when they would like applicants to submit all materials. In the last column, the typical entrance exam for each program is listed. As with all other aspects of the application process, programs might vary in terms of whether they require an entrance exam and/or the type they will accept. Additional information about entrance exams is mentioned in the Applying to Graduate School recording if you would like to dive a bit deeper into this portion. Typically, each centralized application system will require applicants to submit a personal statement, set of letters of recommendation, transcripts from previous institutions, shadowing or related experiences, processing fees, and secondary applications from your schools of interest. Personal statements vary in page or word limit, and most have some type of prompt. Although the prompt varies by application system, most essentially ask you to provide a reflection of your interests, motivation, and career goals to learn a little bit more about what draws you to the field. As mentioned before, it is important not to mention a specific program or school name within your personal statement if you're applying to multiple schools through the application portal. We have a separate recording on personal statements that you're certainly welcome to view if you do want to gain a little bit more insight into this area. Each program has preferences for the number of recommendation letters you submit, as well as from whom they would like these letters. Most schools request 3 letters of recommendation from a combination of professors, supervisors, and professionals within the field. Although you can technically submit more than what's requested, some schools do have a limit and won't read any more than what they request. As you view application requirements, you might see something called a committee letter. On some campuses, they have a group of faculty and staff that advise students through the graduate and professional school application process, and they submit one cohesive letter of recommendation for the student if the committee believes the student would be a competitive applicant. At Pitt-Greensburg, we don't have such a committee, but Career Services, as well as your faculty members, are always happy to help advise you through this process. Your letters of recommendation would come from professors, supervisors, or professionals of your choosing. Application portals will request an official transcript from each college or university in which you have taken classes. If you've transferred from an institution or if you took summer classes at a different school, you will need to contact their registrar office as well as Pitt-Greensburg's registrar office to request copies of these transcripts. Keep in mind, you might be asked by the schools to pay a small fee for them to send your official transcripts. Application systems will likely also ask you to type in each class you have taken along with your grade associated with that class. Since job shadowing is required for most programs, the application system contains a section in which you can list your shadowing and any additional related experience. Be sure to keep track of your shadowing hours as you gain them to make this process a little bit easier. We mentioned in the previous slide that there are processing fees associated with submitting applications. These companies understand that it can be a bit costly for students, so most centralized application systems do have a fee assistance program in which applicants can apply for on a first-come basis to reduce the cost. To gain additional insight into your background, experience, and interests, many schools send a secondary application for their program and/or program-specific essay questions that they add to their portion of the centralized application portal. In these questions and applications, I highly recommend tailoring your responses to really express what draws you to that particular school or program. This will show the application reviewers that you are seriously interested in their school. It takes time to complete these sections of the application process, and finalizing applications can certainly feel a bit relieving. After receiving and reviewing applications, many programs do identify a list of candidates they would like to consider, and those candidates are often invited for either a virtual or an on-campus interview. The interview is typically with 1 or 2 members of their program, and this could be anyone from professors or even the admissions staff. As you navigate your respective centralized application portal, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, it's best to use Google Chrome if possible because it's the most compatible and will yield a smaller chance of technology glitches. Since the application process can be a bit time-consuming, consider taking care of what's out of your control first. For instance, reaching out to secure your letter of reference writers first can be helpful to provide them plenty of time to write a strong letter. I would recommend also providing them a deadline to complete the letters that is earlier than your personal deadline for submitting the application. This will provide you some wiggle room in case the recommender needs additional time. Since each school has unique requirements, triple check the prerequisites for each program to make sure that you're meeting each. You're certainly always welcome to contact your programs of interest to ask questions and clarify information if you're ever unsure about requirements. For the personal statement and any additional essay questions, type your response in Word first and then paste the content into the database once you're ready. This will allow you to take your time with the essays, send them to others for feedback, and ensure you don't have any spelling or grammar errors. On average, it may take approximately 3 months to complete the application. Give yourself plenty of time to work on, review, and revise all aspects of the application. Since many portals open up during the summer, many students prefer to use the summer months to focus on pulling their materials together since they typically have a little bit more time than during the school year. When you create a profile through the database, you will be assigned a portal ID number. If you have to contact schools or the application system with questions, you might be asked to supply this number. Keep your ID number where you can easily locate it, such as in your phone. When the application system receives a transcript or letter of recommendation, it will send you a notification. When you receive that notification, always go back and review the check status portion of your portal to make sure the content was received and logged appropriately. Each application portal does have a help desk, so if you ever have any issues or if there are any glitches with your application system, you're always welcome to contact them. Upon receiving a copy of one's centralized application materials, many programs require all applicants to complete a secondary application. This typically involves a few short answer or essay questions that are targeted at specific areas or themes, such as diversity, research interests, and what interests the applicant the most about that particular school. Keep in mind the secondary applications typically require a fee that is paid directly to the school. The good news is the fee is typically much lower than the cost to submit materials through the centralized system. Each institution will provide their deadline for submitting the secondary application, and it's best to take your time completing all aspects of the application, but also in a timely manner. Secondary applications are very important because they are your opportunity to really express your interest to a program that goes beyond just a general summary of what led you to want to pursue a career in that area. Take time to research each program, including the faculty, courses offered, available opportunities, and aspects that make the program unique. All these areas, as well as the institution's mission and values, can be helpful to support your reasoning for what draws you to the program. When addressing secondary application essay questions, draw on your goals, experiences, personal views within the profession, and motivation for applying. Since the application reviewers will also be reading your personal statement, it's best to focus on new material or expand upon certain experiences within your essays. Make the most of the space you have available to write. This is your opportunity to really express what makes you unique and what experiences that might make you stand out compared to others. For instance, do you have research experience that helped you develop new skills that might be important to your profession of interest? Think outside the box and don't be afraid to highlight your accomplishments. As with the personal statement, be sure to follow essay guidelines, including word count and style. Typing your responses in Word allows you to measure the word count as well as check for grammar and spelling errors. As you navigate the application process, please do not hesitate to reach out to either Career Services or your faculty for guidance on how to highlight your experiences through your personal statement, essays, and other areas of the application. We completely understand that the application process can feel intimidating and overwhelming at first, and we're certainly here to help it along the way as much or as little as you'd like. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our recording on navigating centralized application systems. I hope that this helped you gain a little bit of insight into the process and the typical requirements. As always, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us in Career Services for assistance in your graduate school search and preparation process. We're always here and happy to help you research programs, understand what to expect from the application process, and offer guidance.